Fragments of silicon, not for self-defense use.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam, and joining me are Proton and Neutron, aka Gollix and Pettyfan.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I don't know if you want to be the Electron.
I'm like, it doesn't work as well.
I know.
I mean, I could have gone with Polarity.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, let's get to the news. Gollix, why don't you start us off this week, since you have some news?
Well, apparently, one of the guys in my Pathfinder group on Sundays was exposed to someone with COVID at a night class that they're taking for their job. And he took a test, and it was a positive, but not like a strong positive. So for the last couple of days, I have been treating myself as if under the assumption that I have been positive, because that's what you're kind of supposed to do, which unfortunately has meant, well, luckily, my work wanted me to work from home, so I wasn't completely going out of my mind. So I went and picked up the laptop and some stuff to hook it up to so I could work from home. Thankfully, I have tested negative on 2 home tests, with enough time in between that you're supposed to do it that way. And I have an appointment tomorrow for a PCR test or something. That the doctor wants to be confirmed, because right before this, I was going to make an appointment to get my COVID booster and also a flu shot. And I have to be COVID negative. I have to have tested negative after being exposed to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm still not sure after all this stuff if I'm going to actually go to the family Christmas thing or not, because that's still this weekend, and this has kind of put me even more off of travel and crowded spaces. So luckily, my friend who was exposed has had no symptoms, and I have not had any symptoms either, so I'm glad about that, at least.
Okay.
I think that's about all I got.
That's enough, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Right, Pettyfan, over to you.
Well, I've still been playing through more of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond.
Petty?
Petty, if you're talking, your mic is muted. Okay.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to switch it off stereo mix. Whoops.
Anyway.
So yeah, not too much has been happening. Been playing more of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, so yay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We need to see about getting Luna some more meds, so that's going to be fun. We need to call the vet sometime next week. I think it was only like $8 for a month, so it shouldn't be too much. It's more getting down there.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's surgery, hopefully, is for real this time, is coming up soon. Next Thursday. So hopefully that will help her problems, and I don't get driven insane by dealing with her so much.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I actually got a thing of Pokemon cards for the hell of it today because they had the Dark Sylphion 25th anniversary box, and I ended up pulling a Charizard out of one of the celebration packs, so that was nifty.
So are you actually playing the Pokemon collectible card game or just collecting the cards?
Just collecting the cards I like. Because I can sell the stuff I don't like or need to my local game store and end up turning it into Digimon cards, so...
Right.
I got a box of Double Diamond the other day. Well, last week, but...
Yeah. Between what I got from Charizard and the money my dad's supposed to be giving me for cards for Christmas, I should have enough for another box if I so desire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Charizard's like an $80 card, so not bad for spending $20 on a box.
Mm-hmm.
That's an ROI, all right?
Like, in hindsight, I probably should have held on to it because, in a few years, the 25th anniversary stuff's going to be worth more, but...
Who's got that kind of time?
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else?
Been enjoying, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, except for, good lord, the queues.
Yeah, all my friends have been talking about having a hard time getting in.
I was trying to do some stuff earlier before the show. I had a 5,000 person queue, so that plan was shot dead.
I'm surprised you haven't streamed any of Endwalker.
Most of it's just been the queue problem because...
Right.
If I try and time it to where I'm just done with the
you pretty much have two choices. You either start the stream and then have hours of queue before you actually start playing, or get in the queue and guess when your stream is going to start.
Yeah, especially because they've been having problems with login server stability, where you can get kicked out, whenever in the queue and then have to go to the back of the line, which is infuriating.
That sounds like it.
So yeah, I may see about streaming some this weekend. It really depends on how, life stuff goes.
As ever, always.
Because they just had a maintenance which should have resolved most of the login server stability issues.
Hmm.
So it'll be easier to time things out and stuff, especially if I get up, somewhat early in the morning. But yeah, that's a thing. Also, my collector's edition box should be here tomorrow, so yay! Yeah, Ogre already got his, and the statue that it comes with looks pretty damn nice. But yeah, I think that's it from me.
All right, I guess it's my go. Well, I'm just enjoying the calm before the holiday storm. Look, I gotta. Not only do I have to attend more family gatherings, there are more family gatherings with children.
My condolences.
Very, very draining children. Like, let's just say they're in special needs programs. But in the meantime, been doing stuff at the show. We just booked our first guest for the next season, just all the way in February. Let's see. Been playing a couple of pre-release games this week. Sam and Max Beyond Time and Space Remastered, which just came out today. Which means I can talk about this one. It is indeed the old game, but it looks nicer. More on that on Sunday. And also been playing Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. I cannot talk about this until Sunday. I checked the embargo. It expires at like 8 or 9 a.m. on Sunday. So
Oh man, there sure must be a lot of pockets in that dungeon.
I can neither confirm or deny that. Like, no, seriously, I can't talk about this.
I know.
And yeah, I suppose that's it for my news. So, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. Joining us this week is Rue from the Retro Room Games.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on, guys.
It goes well. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Definitely a good day. How are you guys doing? Everything going well?
You seem to be doing well for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, COVID tests have ended up negative, so
It's always a
Yeah.
good thing. Always a good sign.
yeah. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the person, people behind the games, the studio, and all that. And we start by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
On a personal level, it's one of those things that I grew up with. I was very young. It was before I can really remember. I was playing games at my aunt and uncle's house. They had an NES, and kind of where it all started. And then I had another uncle who had a Sega Genesis, and they just kind of introduced me to gaming, and it just spiraled out of control since then. Um, on a professional level, it's hard to say. I started developing games maybe in like 2013, and I didn't get very much done. The stuff that I created was very broken and incomplete, and I never released anything. And I stuck with it for a couple of years, and I finally released a full game. It was kind of my goal to release something, that was that had a full game from start to finish, something that you could play and beat, and that was Quest Arrest. That was the first Game Boy game that I had created, and yeah, that was really, I would say, the launching point of the career in gaming.
Right. So I suppose the next question here is, what made you want to take a retro focus with your not just your games development, but as I understand it, you are in the game preservation scene as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm such a sucker for nostalgia, and I'm very much so a sucker for going back and playing old games. Like this whole week, I've been trying to rebuild this XP computer to put like a bunch of DOS games on it that I played whenever I was growing up, and it's just been so fun to go back and replay a lot of the games, and that just sort of makes me want to be involved in that space a little more. I actually created the retro room concept based upon just being able to talk with people like you guys about games, and it kind of spiraled from there into something a little more. I started developing games, and I started publishing games, and trying to do a little bit more preservation stuff. So it just it really started with the desire of wanting to be able to talk with other like-minded people about retro games that we loved growing up with.
Right. So was the Retro Room like a website, a podcast, some other kind of show?
It was literally just a Twitter page, and then it grew into a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and then it grew into like a website with game development and publishing and all that stuff involved. It was literally just a Twitter account where I just talked with other people about video games and really old stuff in general, like nostalgia based stuff like old TV shows or cartoons or renting stuff from Blockbuster and just things like that I loved growing up.
Like, no, I mean, certainly you've taken strides from those beginnings.
Yeah, it's really turned into something really interesting and really that I feel extremely grateful and lucky for. It's a dream to be able to work with video games and stuff that I grew up with, especially games that I actually played whenever I was growing up. So it just feels like I feel like the luckiest guy alive for that. Honestly.
That's a good feeling to have. And how long ago did you start the Retro Room?
The Twitter page is gonna tell all. I would say I think it was December of maybe 2019, whenever I started all of this, and 2020 is whenever it really started kicking off because it started releasing games. Then I got some shout outs from a few YouTubers, and it kind of started going crazy after that. I started taking any money that I made and reinvesting it into like more games and just trying to grow the preservation effort. I also
Right.
like to release. I like to release my own games as well within that. So, kind of a half and half.
Seen that before, or we've had people on the program who do either like the retro thing or the preservation thing. Like,
Hmm.
but still, it's nice to always have more people in the scene, so to speak.
I
And
love it.
we haven't quite touched upon it yet, but I suppose now is good a time as any. You have a specific focus in your preservation efforts, and that is licensed games, according to your website.
Right. Right. I work with a guy who is in licensing, and what I really like to get my hands on is either games that I grew up with or games that didn't have a chance to be released. So it's games that I enjoyed or games that I think deserve to have a spotlight. The one that I'm working on right now is called Ellen: The Crystal Wars, and it just didn't get a release. And I spoke with a lot of the original development team, and as a game developer, I just can't imagine how disappointing it is to work super hard on something and then it not being able to see the light of day. So I just like try to focus my efforts more on being able to release those kinds of games and give them the spotlight that I think that they deserve. I've been lucky enough to get some licensing around or based upon some games like that, and hopefully I can move forward with more. It's just it's kind of a cool concept to me to give people's creations the chance to be released whenever they weren't. They might have been canceled by bigger companies or abandoned for whatever reason. But yeah, I like to give those games a chance.
Right. And this is probably the project people might have heard about because I saw this on like various news sites. I saw it in like YouTube videos. I got a whole bunch of press on it. Like,
Right.
as since we are games media, we tend to get press about certain things. This was not the only Game Boy project of an unreleased vintage that we got, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so though for those who missed it, Ellie and the Crystal Wars, as I understand it, originally was supposed to be a Dune game,
Right. Right.
right?
I'm not supposed to sell it based upon that because we didn't get the actual intellectual property rights for it. But I did get the rights to the actual game itself, the source code for the game. So we had to remove. We're still working on it, actually, removing any of the actual property rights that are owned by the original company. So it's becoming like its own kind of game and a standalone story and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it was originally part of that franchise, or was intended to be. It was canceled before release.
Do you know why it was canceled?
I have no idea. It's one of those things where I think maybe the company got overambitious, or I don't want to speak. This is just like speculation, or I don't know. I have no idea in reality why it happened, but most of the time, whenever things like that happen, the company's over they overreach and bankruptcy happens or whatever. I have spoken with some of the original developers, and I don't think they even know what happened. They just got laid off, and it was what it was. The company got bought out, and they just canceled the project. But the game itself is pretty over ambitious for being a Game Boy game, and it looks really good. It's really ahead of its time. So I mean that might have something to do with it, but I'm not really that sure why it got canceled. I just know that they did cancel the project entirely, and it got pretty much canned.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, game projects get canceled for all sorts of reasons, and
Right.
I suppose it matters not all that much, these days. Um, so aside from plucking out all of the Dune references, what still has to be done with Ellie and the Crystal Wards to get it into a releasable state?
There's some things that I'd like to do to like refine game mechanics. It's definitely like a little bit rough around the edges. So I'm working with a programmer. His name's Scott, and he's just a really talented guy. He did a lot of really cool projects. He actually did like the HD remakes for the Shenmue games and a couple of other pretty well known projects. And I've been teaming up with him to try to refine some of the gaming mechanics to make it just a little more smooth. Needs a little bit of it's a little rough around the edges, so we're just trying to smoothen it out a little bit before putting it out. So we're gonna remove all that intellectual property, and then we're gonna try to just make it run a little more smooth as far as like some of the complaints that people have had in the community when they go and play the versions that are out there. We just want to fix some of that stuff.
Okay. And how did you come across this thing in the first place?
For the guy who does licensing, I don't know if I can say his name on stream, but he's a really cool guy, and he just kind of offered it to me. I do a lot of licensing through him, like a lot of stuff that I haven't spoken about yet that I'm still working on behind the scenes. But he just kind of uh, introduced me to the company who owns the rights to it, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to work on publishing this game?" I was like, "Absolutely." Is there any way that we can work on the game itself? Like, do we have a way to get our hands on the source code? And luckily they had the source code, but I also had spoken with some of the original developers, and they secretly sent me some of the source code. um, I don't think they were supposed to like even show it off, I guess. I don't know, for whatever reasons, but they sent me everything that was missing. And yeah, that's just kind of how it fell into my lap. It was presented to me, and I was like, absolutely, I would love to do it. It's one of those things where I feel like it sucked to build on a game for so long and then not have it be released to the public. And that's why I feel like the developers that I've spoken with are pretty grateful that this is happening. We're really happy that we're able to get it out there.
Okay. And this is also being funded by a Kickstarter, if I'm remembering
Yes,
correctly. Is that still ongoing?
it is. I think there's like a month left on the Kickstarter itself, something like that. Maybe a little over a month.
Let's see. Apparently 37 days, according to the Kickstarter page.
Right, right. So
I
a
guess
month and a week left.
I'll just pop that link here in case anyone wants to donate. Um,
Yeah,
so I guess
appreciate
along
that.
those lines. And it looks like, according to the page here, it's fully funded. So,
Correct.
what are your stretch goals?
I would like to be able to do localization efforts, which means that I have to hire like translators. I'd like to be able to add levels. Fix the password system. I think there's some stuff in it that needs to be fixed. Just some of the more tedious things. I really would love to get to being able to add some levels to it, but that's just an extreme effort, and we'll have to see what happens.
Right. And are you aiming to release this on actual hardware? Like,
Yeah.
is this going to be an actual Game Boy Advance game, or is it going to come out to modern systems and the PC and all that?
No, the whole point of what I do is to try to release games on the consoles that they were intended to be released on, as well as other retro consoles if I can. Like if I could get this ported to like a Super Nintendo or something like that, that would be awesome. But yeah, I don't really work with anything modern. I would. I'm not against it, but all the projects that I'm working on, even the unreleased ones coming up, are going to be like Super Nintendo, Sega, Genesis, and Mega Drive, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy. I think the latest system that I've worked with is maybe the Dreamcast. But yeah, I haven't worked with anything later than that.
Thinking about it, the Game Boy Advance would be the latest, as that came out in 2001. Dreamcast was 99.
I guess you're right. Yeah, there you go. So this might be like the latest project that I've worked on. I'm not against working on things like for the Nintendo Switch or the PS5 or whatever, but I'm more focused on some of the more retro consoles, more of the old stuff.
Okay, definitely less common, but we've still had people on the program here who target just like the old consoles, like, and as far as along those, well, getting back to Iliad: The Crystal Wars itself, since it's not going to be a Dune game, what's the story here? What's Iliad? What are the Crystal Wars and all that?
So there's like a story that the rights holders had actually written. It's not my like place to write it, but yeah, it's very similar to what was there before as far as the Dune game goes, except for the removal of the actual intellectual property. So there was an original story in place about a harsh desert world, which we knew was Dune, and about there being the mining of materials and two different sides. There's the Trafford forces, which is the bad guys. Um, so there was originally a story in place that was there, and my guess is that they're going to keep it similar to that story, and just change the intellectual property stuff. We can't say certain keywords that they would use in Dune, but for the most part, a lot of the story that was originally in the game, which I don't want to spoil entirely because I don't want people to play, but originally the story that was there is going to stay there. We're just gonna remove the keywords that are covered under their intellectual property rights and kind of move forward with that story. It's like a story about like a galactic federation versus like an enemy empire. I guess it's comparable to like Star Wars or like even Dune, and the collection of certain materials. In this case, it would be crystals.
Right. I guess whatever story that will be in this is going to make more sense than whatever they had planned as a Dune title. Like,
Right, I think so.
well, it's actually been a bit of a problem with Dune games.
They're confusing.
Not just that, but the fact of the matter is, House Harkonnen and House Arrakis were not like equal rivals on the desert planet Dune. Like, that's how they're framed in like the Doom RTS games, for example.
Right.
I think I read an article about how okay, so there's a lot of games that have them as being active rivals, but they were never actually in power at the same time.
No, like the only time they came into contact in armed combat was when House Harkonnen was unleashing their trap, and they got and House Arrakis got decimated.
Also, it's House Atreides and the planet is Arrakis.
Yeah, Atreides, Arrakis. It's been a while.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry. I knew I was mixing. Anyway, point is,
the point is, come on, Adam. The least you could do is try not to be wrong about the intellectual property we're probably not even supposed to mention. I'm
luckily,
kidding.
I think luckily we're gonna try to focus more on the gameplay and making it a more fun game than focusing on the actual story itself.
Yes, and certainly there's a lot of other ways you can flavor hunting for resources on a desert planet.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's one of those things where I'm really focused on the gameplay itself because it's a really cool game and it's it's ahead of its time in terms of it being like this first person shooter kind of game for the Game Boy Advance and You only see a handful of those. So yeah, I'm really focused on that. The story aspects, unfortunately, I don't have much control over, so I just kind of like follow the leader there. But yeah, I have a lot of faith in what they're planning on doing with it for sure.
Right. And what sort of timeline are you looking at here in terms of releasing the game?
So the Kickstarter ends midway through January. As soon as that money is deposited, I will immediately start with publishing and development of certain aspects of it. So, um, I'm trying to get it done by spring if I can. I have the date set to be done by I think like May or June, sometime in the summer. But I like to work as quickly as possible. So hopefully I can get it out before then, maybe spring.
Okay. Well,
In my experience, the games take maybe 2 or 3 months to publish.
uh, we'll see how that goes because this is a Game Boy Advance title, and if I'm recalling correctly, your other projects were like Game Boy, the brick.
Right, right. The
No.
classic. I'm actually in the middle of publishing Gelatinous Humanity Lost. We're like right at the end of finishing up publishing on that. So
Yeah.
it's a similar process.
Yeah. And like I don't know if there's much difference between the two in terms of manufacturing, but it could be a cause for concern.
Not very much different. Very similar in
Okay,
manufacturing.
good to hear. Uh, anyway, so Elliot is probably the biggest project you're working on in terms of notoriety, but certainly not the only one. Indeed, if people are watching the stream or the VOD, they're probably seeing footage of Chip's challenge here, which
Right.
might be a bit odd given that we haven't been talking about it yet. But indeed, one of the projects I saw on your website is you're working on a physical version of Chip's challenge.
Correct. Yeah, we're actually shipping it out as we speak. It's ready to go. So if anybody orders, they won't have to wait very long for it. It's We ended up porting it. I worked with a guy named Alec Mall. He's a very talented developer, and we worked on porting it to Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis and Mega Drive, and they're really cool ports. It worked out really well, and we got it published, and now we're just distributing it. So. It's just a really cool project because I grew up with Chips Challenge myself, and whenever I got my hands on being able to work with it, I was just extremely grateful because I was so familiar with it. Had such fond memories of it growing up, and it's a dream come true.
All right. So which version did you end up publishing?
So it's a version that's very much similar to like the Amiga version. The reason why I grew up personally with the Windows version of it, but I didn't want to step on Microsoft's toes in any way, so we definitely went with the version that I knew we would have rights for entirely, and that was either the Commodore, Spectrum, or Amiga version of it. So we kind of played around with those versions to publish it.
Did you make any attempts to get the Lynx version?
Um, I mean, they're all relatively similar and sort of puzzle. The puzzles are very similar. If you play the Windows version or if you play the Lynx version, you play the Spectrum version. Even the puzzles are very similar. It's just the graphic content and the music that differs from each of them. So
Right.
yeah, we try to keep it very close to the source material in terms of all of the versions really. But the actual character itself, I would say is probably from the Amiga version.
And was there any particular reason why you sought to publish these games on the Genesis and Super NES?
Um, I had the availability to do it. I was actually working on other handheld versions of the game, which I'm still working on. Spoiler alert to anybody who's listening. But yeah, I was working on some handheld versions to put them out on the Game Boy Advance, and that's whenever I met Alec, and he had already built an engine for the Super Nintendo, and and I had talked to him about publishing Chip's Challenge, and yeah, it just kind of went from there. But
And this game would really love to have a reverse button. I think that's what they do in puzzle games these days.
reverse button. Yeah, that would be really cool. It would be cool. I might have to talk with Alec about doing something like that to where we can back it up a little bit.
Because that's part of the reason Chip's Challenge is so challenging is because there's basically an ideal, perfect way to do each puzzle. And if
Right.
you don't do that, you probably just need to kill yourself and start over.
Right, restart the level.
Right, that's one of the big puzzle requirements of all like Sokoban clones. You know,
Yeah, it's definitely like something that I could talk with Alec about for future versions. We've also spoken about creating different themes for Chip's Challenge, which I think would be really cool. Like a space theme or a jungle theme or something like that, to where it's not so conventional Chip's Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ideas floating around, and I have to work with Bridgestone Multimedia, the rights holders, on trying to make some of this stuff happen. It's sometimes it's a little bit of a battle, but they've been pretty accommodating and pretty cool about things. And yeah, it's this isn't the end of Chip's Challenge for me, that's for sure.
right. If I'm recalling correctly, Chip's Challenge 2 got unearthed a few years back.
Yeah, I'm not sure really like the legal battles that they had. I've just read about the stuff online. I'm not sure like the developers of Chip Challenge 2 what portals they went through to be able to do what they did, and what legal trouble they got into or why. I'm not really sure about that. I just know that I don't want to get into that trouble.
No, that's definitely understandable. I know they've talked about it in interviews, but I've forgotten the details myself. But yeah, real ugly stuff.
Yeah,
But
I definitely don't want to go down that path myself. So I'm really careful with what I do.
yeah, but whatever they are, they appear to have been cleared up, or at least cleared up enough where I can go on Steam and get Chip Challenge 2
Right.
free and clear.
Right. I think
You know?
they
And
were.
there's also the spiritual successor, Chuck's Challenge 3D.
Right.
Which is
And that was the original developer, Chuck
yes.
Somerville creation.
Mm-hmm. So there's more of this out there.
Definitely, we worked with the original game itself, or the original concept of the game, and getting it ported to other retro consoles that it might not have seen the light of day otherwise. So I find that concept kind of cool too. I think that's another thing that I might do moving forward is or that I know I'm going to do moving forward. We're already looking at other projects to port games that I grew up with to systems that they might not have originally been created for.
That's definitely a popular thing to do these days as well. You know, and I suppose it's also kind of the nature of the beast, since a lot of the retro preservation scene these days is bringing these games to modern day consoles, the modern day PC framework, and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to even see Chips Challenge on like as a Chips Challenge builder game where like community can submit their levels and things like that. I'm looking to do something like that maybe in the future. That would be really cool, I think.
Yeah. And as noted, in addition to your preservation work, you've also been engaged in your own original products here, namely Gelatinous Humanity Lost and Quest Arrest.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry?
What are Quest Arrest and Gelatinous Humanity Lost?
Quest was like my first attempt at actually making a game from start to finish. It's an RPG game where you play as a detective solving crimes in a city, and Gelatinous is a follow up to that, which is basically the opposite of Quest. It's a platformer game. It's very difficult. It's like a Dark Souls of a Game Boy kind of game. It kind of takes you back to the roots of the Game Boy, where games were actually difficult to beat. You had to die a lot. So yeah, it was just going from one extreme to the other, you know.
Sounds like it. And what's it like developing on an original Game Boy?
I thought it was gonna be easier than it is. It's one of those things where it's more simplistic than maybe like working in Unreal Engine or something like that. But some of the concepts can get a little tricky because limitation becomes a puzzle in itself. It's hard to work with some of the limited factors and making something fun and original, that people are going to enjoy, while also staying within the confines of the Game Boy itself. It's very limited, and you have to be very careful with what you're doing, or else you'll overload the memory, and it's a lot of fun to try to. It's like a puzzle in itself to try to stay within those confines.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I know the Game Boy has additional confines with that. We've covered Game Boy esque games on the program that would not have worked on the original Game Boy. Because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
I've
too
seen it out
fluid.
there.
Like the screen was not good.
Yeah, it's definitely tough.
Anyway, so I think we've covered everything highlighted on the website here. Is there anything else that you're working on that you can talk about at this point in time?
Right now I'm working to try to release a Commodore 64 game onto the Game Boy Color. I can't quite say exactly what it is. There's definitely been some leaks of it for sure, but um, and I have the contract for it literally like 2 feet away from me. That it's being reviewed by my lawyer, so I haven't signed it yet. But the game is about 99% finished, and we're like just getting ready to announce it. There's definitely been some leaks out there. Find them. I'm not gonna say where, but but it's a Commodore 64 game that we're bringing to the Game Boy Color, and I'm really excited to announce that next. Well, another one that I can talk about is some more Chips Challenge projects. Try to bring it to the Game Boy Advance. We have a version of it in testing right now. Hopefully, we can try to get that published soon. I would love to have another handheld version of Chips Challenge out there on another console that it wasn't originally released for. I think that's a really cool concept. So it's definitely something that I look forward to releasing.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that could work in a portable like, and I suppose that, this isn't necessarily pertaining to anything you are working on, but like, what games are you hoping to get? This is more wish listy than anything else.
I've always the whole thing that started this was I wanted to get licensing for the game Ski Free, the original like Microsoft Windows game Ski Free, and I wanted to make like a sequel to Ski Free. That's kind of one that I have. And I've reached out to Microsoft like a bunch of times. I reached out to the original developer a bunch of times, and I just haven't heard anything back. I don't want to do like a spiritual successor. I want to do Ski Free 2, or Ski Free 3D or something like that. I would love to get my hands on Ski Free.
Like, I gotta imagine you're not the only one who would want to get Ski Free, considering how popular it was in its time.
So it's always been kind of a meme game. You can't actually like win ski free. You just ski for a while and then get eaten by a yeti.
Right.
I think
I feel like there's
one
tons
of
of
the issue.
potential.
Yeah, it's like maybe it would be better to see if you could get that as part of like a re-release of the Microsoft Entertainment packs or something.
There's a
because
bunch
that's
of
what
games on there that I really like too. I liked Pipe Dream, I like Jazz Ball. There's a lot of really good games that I would love to do.
You know, I have no idea if those are feasible or not. Like Microsoft's old PC games are kind of one of the last frontiers on like the majors. But yeah, there's all sorts of other things that can still be re-released in this day and age.
Right. One of the big
Yeah.
problems I think is figuring out who actually owns the original game. You know, you just don't you don't know. It's not listed publicly, and you kind of have to go down this crazy rabbit hole to figure out who actually owns these games.
It's come up on the show. I'm like I said, we've had other, let's say, retro preservationists on the program telling us their stories about this, and yeah, it's a rabbit hole. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, you kind of have to knock on doors and ask questions. You know, try to figure out who owns what. You know, and you never know. You know, it could be sold or bought out by this company or gone bankrupt or who knows.
well, that's like according to others, one of the first things that you need to do when trying to rescue something is develop a line of research, figure out
Right.
who owns what, and actually go to them and see if they're willing to play ball.
That's exactly it. That's the game right there.
Yeah. Any rate, I think I've run through my gamut of questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
I think
Sure.
I'm good.
Yeah, I piped in when I had something.
Okay.
Yeah, I really definitely appreciate you guys chatting with me about games. It's one of those things that I love to talk about, and I'm
No
more than
problem. No
more than
problem.
grateful to chat with anybody about it. I appreciate you guys having me on and giving me the opportunity to talk about stuff on the Fragments of Silicon.
We'll probably do this again when you have more to talk about.
Yeah, you
That's how we
bet.
usually do. No, like, probably not like the Game Boy Advance parts of Chimps Challenge. More like whenever your next game is announced, we'll try to schedule something then and after that. Like at any rate, thank you, Rue, for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. Um, so, yeah, good luck to you on releasing Iliad: The Crystal Wars and Chips Challenge on the Super NES and Mega Drive or Genesis, depending on your region.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Thank you so much.
suppose a question about the carts there. Are you doing PAL and NSTC carts?
Yes, we're doing both regions for sure. Definitely, I wanted to, I have a pretty big fan base in Europe and the UK, and definitely want to give them the opportunity to play. So we ported it to both PAL and NTSC.
All right. So you can find more information about his projects and I think pre-orders on the retroroomgames.com. And yeah, Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. Welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we are sort of kicking it old school, but the franchise we're talking about is one that has a long and storied career. We are talking about the Dr. Mario franchise. One of the... I'm not sure if it's like the most successful non-Tetris falling block puzzle game, but it's probably up there. Like, the original version sold over 10 million copies, which is an impressive amount no matter what the age. But for the that is for the NES and Game Boy combined, mind you. That's still a very impressive number, very healthy number, and probably explains why we have continually gotten Dr. Mario titles throughout the ages. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Mario, I suppose the quick and dirty recap is you are Dr. Mario, who I'm not sure is a separate character or what here. Like, it's weird with Mario characters.
He was originally implied not to be, but it's a little bit less clear in given Smash and stuff.
Yeah, because like Mario and Baby Mario are like separate characters. Not the only kind
that's because of fucking storking competence and possible time travel.
I get that. I'm just saying that this isn't the only kind of character weirdness, since Sonic, as classic Sonic, is his own character now. Like he shows up and he's no longer from the past, but he's from another dimension, according to Sonic Forces.
Or possibly a Phantom Ruby creation somehow.
Yeah.
But
we're not talking about Sonic Forces here. But yeah, you're Dr. Mario, a doctor of some very dubious doctorate levels here.
Doctor of Mariology.
Yeah. Well, he's apparently a doctor of mushroom virology, since, he is tasked to get rid of, I don't know, the mushroom flu, like the toadstool.
There are three different kinds of viruses, which have been isolated in a bottle, and you must defeat them by throwing pills at them.
Right.
That's how medicine works, right?
Apparently, that's how medicine works in the Mushroom Kingdom. You can use mega vitamins to destroy viruses. Like, spoiler alert, this is not how
Don't try this at home.
Well, it's also, you cannot destroy viruses with medicine. This is why you have to get shots, because...
I mean, you can't destroy viruses with antibiotics. There are antiviral medicines.
Right, but they don't work like this.
No.
This is more, like how an antifungal or bacterial thing would work than an antiviral thing. Because we don't know if you can kill viruses. We're not even sure if they're alive.
I think the last I heard was that the scientific consensus is moving toward yes, but yeah, it's a little bit hard to tell because they don't do all of the things that are considered alive are considered to do.
Right. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, you cut out there for a bit. Anyway. And your job is to... It's kind of reverse Tetris, or, Tetris Part B. You've got to put you've got to destroy the viruses with the pills. So instead of stacking up, you're stacking down. And color management is important here, because if you've got a pill segment that's not matching, well, then you got to get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's easier said than done. But
such as, for example, when Pettyfan goofed up this stage right at the beginning by accidentally putting a blue pill segment on top of 2 red viruses.
One day we will launch the show, the Galax Guides Pettyfan through puzzle games. I'm
not actually that great at a lot of them, but and when I was a kid, I was terrible at Dr. Mario specifically because I did internalize the fact that in order to win the game and not lose, you have to defeat all of the viruses and not just make matches.
Right. And this was one of the first twists on the Tetris formula, because this game has a copyright date of 1990. So, it's still it's an NES game that's pulling this stuff out. This kind of twist would be much more common in the 90s, especially as the Puyo Puyo franchise rose to prominence. Not the only one, but certainly probably the most well-known that survived to the present day that isn't like Dr. Mario or something Nintendo-related. Also worth noting, Dr. Mario probably has 2 of the most famous puzzle themes, once again, that aren't from Tetris, but are original themes, to its credit. You're not just taking Russian, Eastern European folklore and applying it to your game.
Yeah,
I'm not
Tetris
saying
did not invent Korobeniki or whatever it's called.
Korobianki, if I'm remembering correctly, or Kalinka. That's the other theme.
Uh-huh.
They're both public domain works. They were both produced in like the 19th century kind of deal. Yeah. Whereas Chill and Fever, the two main tracks of Dr. Mario, were created by Hip Tanaka, if I'm remembering correctly, who was like the regular R&D1 composer. And
also very good at his job.
Yes. He's one of their top soundtrack guys. Not the one who immediately comes to mind. That's Koji Kondo. He's the guy who scores Mario and Zelda and all that. But yeah, Hip Tanaka has definitely been one of their premier artists. I'm not sure if he's still active, but we're getting off track there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's the core conceit of Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario is also notable for being the first simultaneous Game Boy NES release. And yeah, they did release this game on the Game Boy.
They replaced the colors with textures, which is a little bit tricky to see in the super tiny pill size.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out better than you would have thought. At least on a screen that's not the Game Boy screen. Like, I'd say the bigger problem with the Game Boy screen was not the lack of color, it's the blur.
Yeah, that ghosting is a bitch.
Yeah. And yeah, you could play the Game Boy cartridge outside, the Super Game Boy, and credit the So Dr. Mario did appear on the Super NES, but not standalone. It appeared in a package called Tetris and Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario and Tetris.
Oh man, I know it was packaged with.
Well, it wasn't just packaged. Well, here's the interesting thing about this dual cart. It's not just a packaging of Tetris and Dr. Mario. It's a meeting of the minds. It was doing the Puyo Puyo Tetris thing a decade and a half before that happened. So Puyo Puyo, it's Dr. Mario. Yeah, it's like you can mix the Mega Vitamins with the Tetraminos.
There you go.
I will never... Yeah. I'm like...
It's like Domino, but with Tetter.
Yeah, well, yeah, Domino is 2. Tetra is 4. It's all Greek. And the game Tetris was based off of his Petraminos. 5.
I thought Pentominoes was based... Well, whatever. Either way.
It's apparently 5. So
I know.
It's pentagram, pentagon, so Pentaminos.
Oh, no, I wasn't questioning that.
I'm just saying that's what we're talking about here. Not the only time that Dr. Mario got mixed in with another puzzle franchise. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm trying to think if it was the Game Boy Advance or the GameCube. But Dr. Mario then mixed it up with Puzzle League. We didn't get
Puzzle League Tetris Attack paneled upon.
That's the one. I don't know if that one mixed styles, because that would be harder to do.
It'd be interesting as hell.
Yeah. Hang on, let me look this up. Live research. It's been a while. Well, it's appeared a few times with other puzzle games, but the next standalone installment was Dr. Mario 64. Tetris and Dr. Mario, they called it the Mix Match.
Mm-hmm.
No, it looks like Dr. Mario and Puzzle League standalone, which is not amazing because it would be interesting, but I'm really not sure how you do Puzzle League and Dr. Mario. Like, they are very different puzzle games. I get Tetris and Dr. Mario. There's differences, but you can also see the similarities. But anyway, the next major release was Dr. Mario 64, which was one of the last releases for the Nintendo 64. Coming out in like mid 2001. In fact, I think it's the last Nintendo published title for the system. Not the last title. That's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which got released in like 2002. Still, the Dr. Mario 64 was only initially released in North America, April 8th, 2001. No European release, no Japanese release. And Dr. Mario 64 is pretty much Dr. Mario, except for one big addition. And it's the addition you'd expect from a Dr. Mario title on the Nintendo 64, and that is 4-player simultaneous support. Dr. Mario had the pretty typical, even by 1990, dual combat system going on there, but that was 2 players. You could do up to 4 players. Also, weirdly, this is themed around Mario Land 3 for some reason. Like, for some reason, the main bad guy is the main antagonist from Wario Land 3, and Wario's a big antagonist here. Don't ask me. You can also get Dr. Mario 64 on the Nintendo Switch Online service, but you have to pay extra for it. Don't pay extra for it. That's the nice thing about Dr. Mario. Its core really doesn't change. We've certainly seen some additions and renovations in more modern times, because Dr. Mario Online Prescription released in 2008. This also marks the shift from Dr. Mario from a physical release to being one of Nintendo's download distribution only works, which is a bit of a problem because the entire WiiWare service is gone. So there's no legal way to play the original Dr. Mario Online Prescription. This version is the spine for other releases after this, though. That is to say, it's got the graphical style, and they're all done by Arika, if I'm remembering that name correctly. Not Akira. No, I got corrected about that once.
Arika.
Anyway, Arika. There we go. Something along those lines. But yeah, Dr. Mario Online Prescription. Obviously, the big selling point here was the online multiplayer. First time Dr. Mario does. Yeah, I don't know how smoothly it went, since we're talking about the Wii's online infrastructure, such as that was. Not exactly known for its stability, let's say. Also worth noting, this is also the first time we get a major side addition to Dr. Mario, and that is the Virus Buster, which is basically, hey, you can now play Dr. Mario by dragging the Wii, by using the Wii remote around. It's functional, I guess. Like, look, I will say that this mode was also done better in probably the definitive Dr. Mario game at press time. And it's not even a Dr. Mario game. It's Dr. Luigi.
Because, of course, his brother had to also
in case you forgot about this one. Well, Dr. Luigi was actually the last bit of the Year of Luigi. like released in December of, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was a surprise release because nobody was expecting almost reskin, but it does add its own thing to the mix. Probably the most interesting thing of the modern day Dr. Mario's to do. And that is so Dr. Luigi, aside from having Dr. Luigi instead of Dr. Mario, also revamps the viruses. They look different, but you've got the Retro Remedy, which is plain old Dr. Mario. You've got the Virus Buster. Only since this is a Wii U game instead of a Wii, you can use that gamepad controller to guide the pieces. Using this with a stylus versus a pointer is much more fluid. But the big addition to Dr. Luigi is Operation L, and turns out it's pretty brilliant, if I'm being honest, in what it does. So Operation L is actually quite literal, as in the pill combinations come out in the shape of an L. It's not just the one capsule; it's 3 capsules, 2 stacked vertically, 1 stacked horizontally. So there's a lot. There's more. You have to think differently about using this thing because if you got all the colors matched, you can take out a virus like with 1 capsule. But if you fuck up, you will fuck up big time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's also got the online battle as well. And like I said, I think this is the definitive Dr. Mario currently. And unfortunately, you can only get it on the Wii U right now, which is a concern because here's the thing: Nintendo's starting to dismantle the Wii U online stuff.
For fairly obvious reasons involving how many Wii U's are, in use.
And how long has transpired. But I think starting January of next year, you're not going to be able to add Wii points or money to the Japanese Wii U services. So, yeah, that's that. It hasn't been talked about a lot right now, but this is a concern. Anyway, but I did scooch over a release, Dr. Mario Express, which was just a cut-down version of Dr. Mario Online Prescription for the DSi service. But the latest, playable version of Dr. Mario is actually the 3DS Miracle Cure. It's the modern Dr. Mario platform.
Dr. Modernio, if you will. Don't. I know.
That was painful.
I felt that in my soul.
That is understandable. Anyway, Dr. Mario Miracle Cure actually has all the Dr. Luigi stuff in it as well. Apparently, the new addition here is the Miracle Cure Laboratory mode, which features a number of set challenges to complete. So that's Tetris Part B right there. Though I'm imagining it's like get a certain amount of viruses or get rid of the blue viruses or something like that. That's usually how these things go. But it's got all the other modern additions to Dr. Mario. And is probably going to hang around longer than the Wii U stuff. Still, it's pretty inexplicable that we haven't seen Dr. Mario on the Nintendo Wii. Oh, sorry, the Nintendo Switch.
Aside from versions of...
Yeah. Yeah, aside
Excuse me. Sorry.
But here's the thing: you have to have the Nintendo Online stuff. Then again, if they did re-release Dr. Mario, it would be another version of the Dr. Mario that's been out since 2008, I'd imagine. And maybe because of the Nintendo Online stuff, they don't. Because I'm willing to bet that Dr. Mario and Well, no, I know Dr. Mario 64 doesn't have the online stuff. That I didn't see that attached to that version. Like there are some N64, there are some of these games that have the online multiplayer. There are some that don't. I don't think the NES NES version here has it. Could be wrong. Point is, I do hope to see this modern version of Dr. Mario on the Nintendo Switch, because even if they got the old versions here, those are still the old versions. These have new things in them that the old versions don't. And even the Virus Busters stuff would be viable on the Nintendo Switch because, it has the pointer controls, it has the touchscreen controls.
Yeah, the pointer controls are a little bit weird sometimes, but
on the other hand, if you got a copy, if you got a Dr. Mario on hand, you're pretty good because, unlike Tetris, the core formula of Dr. Mario hasn't been futched around with. Like Tetris today is not Tetris back on the Game Boy. I mean that on an objective level. They have tweaked the rule.
I'm pretty sure we could probably start a fight in the chat about, best Tetris rule set.
Right. But the overall point still stands. Like Dr. Mario, the classic stuff in the new Dr. Mario games, still the classic stuff. Because, what would they change? What would they futz about with? My question.
More colors.
Yeah, that's about all they could do, quite frankly. And then again, throwing in even one more color would throw everything off.
Oh yeah, this that was not actually like a suggestion. It's something it would be a good idea to do.
No,
it would just
I'm
be
saying,
possible.
I'm just saying, yeah. If people think that a extra color is simple, no. This is one of those. No, let me tell you, everything is balanced having around 3 colors. Adding a fourth one would throw stuff out the window. You these are the things you learn after doing a game development show for however many years it's been. Anyway, so anything else to say on Dr. Mario?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, yes, I can also acknowledge the Dr. Mario World mobile game. Only acknowledge it was a thing that existed.
It may or may not have been a mistake.
Month.
Damn
it. It clearly wasn't 2 years tops. Anyway, so yeah, that's about it for Dr. Mario. And indeed, that's about it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Let's see. The week ahead. Once again, we got no show for after the break, after this show ends. We still don't have a date on when MSP whatever 0.0 will be launching. But then again, we're not really going to be looking into it until January, from my understanding. That's which makes sense. Holidays and all. Anyway, let's see. So we do have a Friday show upcoming. Let me just get to the proper page here. I hate it when that happens. Anyway, so on December 10th, we'll be having David Bruno of Mastiff Games, along with Fernando of Maniac Games. Let's see, if I'm remembering correctly, the composer of Tinytopia is out. Another suit from Mastiff is going to be joining us. The configuration of this particular interview has been changing by the day. But the core is there. It's more, who is going to be like the third person here. It's not been that, quite frankly. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Tinytopia then. If you recall, we did a review of Tinytopia just this past Sunday. And also worth noting, we'll be giving away 3 copies of Tinytopia during that broadcast. Mm-hmm. So be sure to tune in there. And as far as the Sunday reviews, this will be our last review of the year, not the season, as the season goes through January. Anyway, we'll be covering Shovel Knight Pocket Edition, Witchwood for the Nintendo Switch, Remnants in the Night for the PlayStation 4, and Sam & Max Beyond Time and Space Remastered. All right, so until Friday, I shall wish you good gaming.